Ted Bundy?
I've never spoken to anybody about this.
He was handsome. He was charming. He looked like the guy next door. But behind that smile hid one of the most terrifying killers in American history. His name was Ted Bundy, and the scariest part, if he lived today, you could have been his next victim. Ted Bundy wasn't the monster you'd expect. Born in 1946, he was educated, articulate, even politically active. He studied law, volunteered at hotlines, and was described as intelligent and polite. But this mask of normality hid something darker. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy embarked on a killing spree that left at least 30 young women dead.
30 years after he was executed, notorious serial killer Ted Bundy is having his story retold in documentaries and crime series this year.
Some believe the number could be much higher, possibly even in the hundreds. And here's what made him so terrifying. He didn't hunt his victims in the shadows. He lured them in broad daylight, in public spaces, sometimes pretending to be injured, asking for help. His weapon wasn't just brute force, it was his charm.
Listening to his voice and listening to that horrible tape of him saying that he had followed my sister from the auditorium or whatever it was, and that is the first time I had ever felt anger and hate, and I was physically ill.
Bundy had mastered the art of appearing safe. Women described him as kind, soft-spoken, and even attractive. This made him a predator unlike any other. His victims didn't run because they didn't see him as a threat until it was too late. Bundy's victims were often young women, many of them college students. There was even a disturbing pattern. Most had long hair parted down the middle, a common style in the 1970s. Investigators later speculated that this detail might have reminded Bundy of someone from his past, perhaps a woman who had hurt or rejected him. Imagine this scenario. You're walking through a college campus or a shopping center. A well-dressed young man approaches, his arm in a cast. He asks for help carrying some books or loading something into his car. He's polite, smiling, and seems harmless. You'd want to help, right? That was Bundy's trap. Once his victims were near his car, he would strike.
I developed agoraphobia, and I don't go out anymore. I'm in this house 24 hours a day. It's like dying. I just think of how things were before Ted Bundy came into our lives. Nothing's the same anymore.
Experts call Bundy a social predator, a term used for individuals who don't just hunt physically, but psychologically. They manipulate their prey, gaining their trust before revealing their true nature. It's terrifying to think about, especially when you consider how easily this could happen today. With dating apps, social media, and countless ways to disguise yourself online, how many people could fall for a modern-day Bundy's act without ever suspecting a thing? Bundy's reign of terror finally began to unravel in 1975 when he was arrested. But even behind bars, he proved how manipulative and dangerous he truly was. He escaped not once, but twice, humiliating law enforcement and terrifying the public. The first escape came when he jumped out of a courthouse window during a preliminary hearing. It was bold and shocking, and for a brief time, he vanished into the wilderness. Authorities eventually recaptured him, but he wasn't done yet. In his second escape, Bundy exploited a tiny hole in the ceiling of his jail cell. He slipped through it and walked right out of the facility, disappearing into society as though he'd never been caught. During this time on the run, Bundy traveled to Florida. There, his crimes escalated to an even more horrifying level. In January 1978, he broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. What happened next was described by police as one of the most brutal crime scenes they had ever encountered. Multiple women were attacked in their sleep. 2 were killed, and several others were left with severe injuries. Bundy's capture after the Florida attacks finally brought his reign of terror to an end. But even then, he managed to keep the public enthralled. His trial became one of the first to be televised nationally. Instead of sparking widespread fear, something strange happened. Many women were drawn to Bundy. The courtroom was filled with young women watching him, some openly stating they didn't believe he was guilty simply because he was too handsome to be a killer. Bundy played into this disturbing fascination. He defended himself in court.
It's further ordered that on such scheduled date that you be put to death by a current of electricity sufficient to cause you immediate death.
Smiling for the cameras, speaking eloquently, and charming the audience. It was like a performance, one that highlighted just how dangerous his charisma truly was. After years of appeals and delays, Bundy was finally executed in the electric chair in January 1989. Outside the prison, crowds gathered, some holding signs, others cheering as they waited for confirmation of his death. For many, this was the end of a nightmare, but for others, it raised a haunting question. Did we really know the full truth about Ted Bundy? Bundy admitted to 30 murders, but investigators and experts believe the actual number was much higher. How many families are still left without answers? How many victims were never discovered? Some of Bundy's confessions didn't match up with known cases, suggesting he either lied or withheld information. And then there's another unsettling theory. Bundy might not have acted entirely alone. Certain disappearances didn't fit his timeline or methods, leading some investigators to suspect there could have been accomplices, or even copycats, who helped him or continued his crimes after his death. Even today, decades later, new evidence and theories continue to emerge. It leaves us with an unsettling reality. We may never truly know how deep Bundy's darkness went. Bundy's story isn't just a piece of true crime history, it's a warning for all of us. He didn't look like a monster. He didn't act like one. He looked like someone you could trust, and that's exactly why his victims didn't run. In today's world, it's even easier for predators like Bundy to hide. With fake profiles, online anonymity, and carefully curated social media personas, anyone can appear harmless, even charming. That's why experts warn that Bundy's story remains relevant. The danger he represents isn't in the past, it's all around us. If Ted Bundy were alive today, he wouldn't need a broken arm trick to lure victims. He could message you online, gain your trust through DMs, and create a false sense of security before revealing his true intentions. Ted Bundy is gone, but the shadow he cast still lingers. He proved that evil doesn't always look like evil. It can be your neighbor, your classmate, even your closest friend. So the chilling question remains, if someone like Bundy walked among us today, would you recognize him before it was too late? Or would you, like so many before you, fall victim to a smile that hides a nightmare?